every folks, and good morning! Welcome to a very excited review here today for Kingsvein. So this is the apparently fourth of, I guess, a series of games that are made by a one-man studio by the name of Rad Codex. So by the way, thank you to Sean for providing a review code for this. This game is absolutely incredible. So let's go ahead and get into it here. Again, I just want to point out, this is a one-man project. This is a game that I've been super excited about over the course of the last week here, because this is one of the most mechanically dense things that I've played in quite a decently long time, and that just makes me incredibly happy. So for one thing, what are we looking at here? What even genre is this? So think about if you had a combination of, let's say, something like Ultima, but combined with Tactics Ogre, FFT, and just a little bit of Shining Force in there, like just a combination of a lot of really fun ideas, right? So, effectively what we're looking at here is, whatever your main guy happens to look like. In this case, this is my guy, running around with his spear and cape, because of course. And effectively, what we're trying to do here is trying to figure out what happens to the people of this whole kingdom situation here. Yes, the story is basically doing like a Vagrant story or a Dark Souls or something like that. There's a kingdom that's gone dark, nobody really knows why, they send in somebody to go investigate. So while investigating, you get a little bit of a backup that was sent in because the situation might be a little bit more intense than anybody originally realized. And so anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the utter mechanical density of this experience, because this is really, really something else. For example, there's a boss fight over here, and just like an IRPG or an Ultima or what have you, essentially you can mess with absolutely everything, and it's just an incredibly fun time. There's a lot of interesting features as far as SRPGs go. There's a lot of just mechanics on mechanics on mechanics affecting absolutely everything. Everything from the traversal of this game to the fights to everything just flows so beautifully. Like right here, you know how there's that frustrating thing in a lot of SRPGs, TRPGs, what have you, where it's like, okay, this is not the guy I wanted to have first, but you don't want to min-max their speed? It's fine, just go ahead and switch to one of the other people that's adjacent to them in the timeline, and you can go ahead and use this basically geomancy type ability to go ahead and shift that bomb over in that direction. That bleeding bomb that I've gone and thrown their leader way back there. It's interesting how he used to be up here. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and continue on this way. She's going to go ahead and back out of the fight a little bit. Then we have this guy showing up to do a little bit of support, because we want to do a little bit of a teamwork kind of thing here. Because I want those guys to get close, but I don't want them to get too close, because the AI is actually surprisingly smart. So they're going to see the fact that I'm going and casting in that particular direction. Additionally, you might notice I'm actually selecting our mount character right now, who actually has access to spells. So you actually can invest a lot of their points into the ability to teach them people spells. The ability is literally called Clever Girl. It's just kind of hilarious. Anyway, so in their particular case, I figured, you know what, it would be really useful to have a support character that's able to, let's say, throw out a burst as if they were the artillery unit from something like Into the Breach, right? So that's pretty handy to have, not only for rescuing your own people, but also for throwing enemies into traps, which I kind of love. So that being said, also, let's say somebody's in an inopportune position that you didn't quite realize, well, you can also go ahead and drag them out of the way. Now, this doesn't apply strictly to combat either. This applies to everything. The same rules apply in both combat and out of combat. So if you have cases where, let's say, you wanted to make sure that, you had enough MP for your entire party, you just go get your empty tankards and you go ahead and you fill them up with what's known as Gilg, and you then use this stuff to make sure that that all of your people are topped off. You can go just get a bunch of empty cups and fill them up. At the same time, if you wanted to, let's say, block off some units, or if you wanted to set some units on fire in the middle of a fight, you can actually go throw, let's say, throw rocks or just hit these with spells and knock them over. But let's say there's another fight in that same area later and you wanted to set it up again. You just go interact with them as if they were a wall switch, put them back up, throw a fireball on there, or just use a lantern on them, and they're back on fire again. Everything's an interaction. It's wonderful. I love that kind of stuff. So anyways, this guy's going to go ahead and wait for a moment because I want him to do some very particular things. But while he waits, he's going to throw out some caltrops here to go throw out a few more spikes, because you know what, we want to make sure that we're constantly doing damage. It's not that these spikes are crazy damaging or what have you. The main deal with all of these spikes is that it makes the AI think that they're dangerous, and that's one of those fun things. Like, I love love to see this many interactions. That guy had a health bar. He's almost gone now. And they're going to go ahead and bandage him up a little bit, try to give him some buffs. It's not going to be enough, I'm afraid. Those guys are going to attempt to use some of their long-range sniping abilities. That guy over there is going to try to do a little bit of healing. It's alright, we'll sort out that little problem. Anyway, so the cool thing is, like I said, absolutely everything ends up interacting. Like, the fact that the AI is smart enough to know where you're going to cast and attempt to avoid it means, like, it basically just adds a whole other layer to potentially interacting with things. At the same time, if, for example, we were to use those same geomancies that she's got here to go put up a plant, and then using a synergy between the plant and a skill that gives you additional MP if you have already maxed HP, we can continuously spam fire a lot of abilities that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. So he's going to go ahead and set up another big fire over there because we want them all to bunch up a little bit more. This guy's going to wait over here, and this guy's actually going to go right on this mount. Now, the mount system. I just want to point out a lot of the stuff that I was praising Crimson Tactics for. Yeah, this game just comes and immediately blows that stuff out of the water mechanically. It's kind of hilarious. The juxtaposition could not be more mean. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and throw a quick trap over here. Because I want to be able to launch that in a little bit here, and I also want him to get away from that arrow. There's a lot of quality of life when it comes to this stuff. Like you see right there, you see exactly where skills are going to land. So we see that bullseye skill is going to land right there. And if we were to fire off some other abilities, it would tell us. If, for example, we go up in this direction, we see that... did they actually cast it yet? So the guy with the bleed icon, I believe he might have already used his mend. Or not his mend, but his blessing. So, like, for example, blessing is a delayed heal. There's actually several classes that specialize in delayed abilities. So, like, for example, you can give somebody a delay heal, send them in to do a bunch of tanking, and then just heal up and get rid of all their debuffs. So in that particular instance, it'll give you a little countdown over what's happening where, so it's very good about conveying information to you. So that's, like, again, so many bits of this game are just, like, the kinds of stuff you'll love to see here. So they're going to go take their shots. Yeah, there we go. There's that mend. It must have been blocked by the bleeding icon. These things happen. Anyway, been unfortunate for that guy because he's decided to land in a position that... oh, the poor guy. He's basically landed himself in a position to get hit immediately by that second trap. But because we have all of our units stacked up over there on the left, we can kind of reorder their turns however we'd like to have them coordinate. It basically just allows you to coordinate all of your people in a very effective way. Like, I want to be able to do some stuff with my wizard here, but he's in the way of my not-quite geomancer doing that same thing. So in his case, what I'm going to do is I actually... Okay, you know what? I already won this fight, so I'm not too concerned. I just want to see the big explosion happen. I'm going to throw him forward over here to go attempt to do something like this, to go hit all those guys against each other. We're going to attempt to then go use this lady to go throw these kind of geomancer kind of things over this way. So we're going to throw that trap in that direction. We're going to go ahead and use you to go over in this direction, and we're going to use... Oh, it didn't give him the chain pull. Oh, this is a different guy. Hold on. Where's my... did I not give you the chain pull? I don't think I did. You've got your chain pull. Okay, that'll work. So I want to get him into safety, right? So again, everything interacts the same way in fights and out of them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull him out of there. I'm going to go ahead and send... well, who else is still available at this point? They're going to take a hit, but this also might be fun. You know what? Actually, here. Yeah, you go forward, and you go ahead and... use this to go launch this thing over in this direction. Again, I'm basically sabotaging my own party here, just because I want to see that happen. And you can just keep launching traps into people. You can launch furniture into people. It's just fun. Again, everything is an interaction. So what we're going to do is actually going to go over here. I'm going to go load a more recent save here, and we're just going to go ahead and talk about interactions in general, because I cannot get across enough just how much interaction there is to this game. Like, from... Oh, shoot, I did not want to go down those stairs, it turns out. because yeah, I totally forgot that there is a story event that happens immediately after this, so instead we're gonna head out the door here and start talking about more and more and more interactions. There's the aftermath of that particular fight. They had a lot of stuff. And I should point out, everything, like, interaction-wise, is perpetual. It stays there. You want to set up, like, an absolute shitload of traps ahead of time? Go for it. No one's getting in your way of doing that. If you want to have people specializing in something as weird as just like, hey, this lady specializes in knocking over and putting back, friggin' wall sconces or what have you, that's absolutely a thing. So we're just going to go ahead and throw a rock over here. That goes and sets all that stuff on fire. We go over here, we set that back up, and then we just go ahead and have her use her little flame rock over here to just turn it back on. Because it's fun. Why not, you know? Again, everything is an interaction. I love it. In fact, I don't know what's going on with those dragonflies. I feel like there's something to them. I've tried setting them on fire multiple times, but haven't succeeded yet. I feel like there's something to it. Everything is a mechanic. It's just wonderful. You'll love to see it. Everything from switches to interacting with things or whatever else. Like you might have noticed, the fact that we've got a absolute ton of just beer mugs in our inventory here, because you actually go and, collect those out of the environment. Or, for example, if you wanted to make bandages, you go and use some scissors, like, let's say we got some sears over here, we have some weave over here, we can break stuff down into weave, we can break down that weave into bandages, we can then go ahead and combine all of those bandages together, we then combine them in with these ul sacks over here that are basically like these weird rocks, and we can just go ahead and combine those together to make these poultices. So I should point out, yes, you can invest into making poultices better, you can invest into all kinds of different things. There's crafting systems in here, in terms of, like, again, this is kind of the ultimate inspiration there, where there's actually interactions with the environment in terms of going and crafting things. Like, there is a place where you can go and modify your weapons over here, where, like, let's say, I wanted to go make an ore spear or something. So I would go pop down some ore over here, get a spear crafting kit, would go slap that on there, and I've now made a spear. Let's say I wanted to go break down that spear back into an ore, I go ahead and plop it into the furnace, go combine it in with my other ore over here, do with that as you will. There's a lot of little interactions you can do with it. Things get very oddly specific. Like, if you wanted to make a build that's specialized in hitting things with a lantern, there's a necklace for that. Like, you wanted to just have traps all over the place, but have your team not take any damage from them, go for it. Just make themselves some boots. This is just the stuff that I've discovered so far. There's, again, just stuff in every direction, it seems. If you wanted to modify your equipment, like, let's say if I go over to, was it this guy or the other one? I think it was... who was it? Oh, yeah, this one's just got a skill augment. So, like, there's skill augments that you can get. Like, the particular augments on this armor just give it a better chance to dodge, and also give you a 50% chance to, it's just basically an increase to the lacerate skill that he uses. So you get little tablets that you can kind of slot in there to give you augments to your skills. So if you liked your Tactics Ogre augments, you can just kind of move those around wherever you find them. Or if you wanted to, let's say, put a scope onto a crossbow, like if we look over at this guy over here, there's a scope that gives you +2 damage for not moving, and we can just kind of put that on whatever crossbows we find. And in his particular case, it just combined reasonably well with his build, where if we go over to the skills, again, just to kind of hammer home the fact that you can just interact with absolutely everything here. In his particular case, like, his whole shtick that I've set up here is the fact that he's going to go ahead and counter whenever, or not him, where was it? Where's the U? So in their particular case, they counter. They just do a basic counter attack whenever they're hit. However, their primary... well, actually, I changed them for this particular fight. Let me go ahead and show what I had him as before. So, primary deal with this guy, since, again, I kind of screwed up who I gave what for that particular fight. So he is supposed to be running with javelins... Oops. Didn't mean to do that. So he's supposed to be running with javelins, and also supposed to be running around with a shield. So if we go ahead and give this guy's shield over to this guy, the way that that's supposed to work is that, here, let's give this crossbow over to you, and then that crossbow goes somewhere else, because Mr. Armor Guy is supposed to be doing all that kind of stuff. So the way that it would normally work is he goes and he attacks stuff with these modified javelins. These javelins are basically one vision javelins, where in their particular case they're going to be hobbling units that are hit by them, right? So it has an augment to them. That's a little spiky thing next to the javelins there. And if we put them on the anvil, you can go ahead and see it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we put this over here. No, wrong button. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to add this to the beginner's guide here, but the interactions are slightly different depending on what you want to do with stuff. But like right here, inflicts -1 movement, or if you put it on armor, it gives you a 3% chance to dodge. Now, the funny thing about this is that it actually will end up stacking, and this is something that you see on enemies early on, where like there's these little wall hugger guys that hang out in the caves. That basically will show up and they'll keep hitting you with movement debuffs to the point that your party just can't move after a little while. And basically that's the entire thing with this game. You're just traveling around, interacting with the world, solving puzzles. There's actually a surprising amount of puzzles, and a surprising amount of them are actually solved with combat skills, believe it or not. Like, here, let me see if I can show you. Like, let's say this guy had a chain move, and it was like one of those mind-blowing things to me. Like this cave in general was a very big learning experience for me. As you can tell, we've been here on the count of there's traps everywhere. Anyways, you can hit your R3 or equivalent at any point to go get a breakdown of anything that you've run into. And if you've never run into it before, it does a little glittery thing, which I think we've already scanned everything around here, but it says that it can be, if you look at a boulder, it says it's a pushable boulder and it can be moved on normal ground. It says it can't be blasted apart like junkstone, but it can be pushed across obstacles like rubble. Okay. So that's all well and good. So, you see that you can push it around. However, there was actually another interesting moment, because this game is really, really, really good at conveying its mechanics. So let's go ahead and find, here, let's go ahead and find a thing. Actually, wait a minute. I don't think I've been here before. Hold on. There's light coming through that thing, which might be from somewhere else. Actually, no, it might be from over there, I think. Anyway, yeah, I think it's coming from somewhere else. I thought that was a doorway for a second there. Although, that being said, I also happen to see a thing that is not lit. That's not okay. Every lantern must be lit. And in fact, we're going to go ahead and bring that with us. I like putting down lanterns everywhere to have just a stack of candles and what have you. But yeah, there's hidden walls and such. But, where are these little slimy dealies? Here we go. So, like, I was traveling through here, and I took a look at this clump. And it says, congealed biomass that is hardened into an impenetrable clump. Luckily, the slide easily when pushed, however, so long as there is room for them to be moved. However, they are too slippery to be pulled. What do I mean pulled? We've only been pushing stuff up to this point. What do you mean pulled? Any move that in combat will cause any kind of movement will also apply to the environment. So this means that you can basically move things like boulders and furniture and stuff around, and there's actually places where this ends up helping you. Like cases where you might have noticed outside, where we were able to pull several boulders and also throw them across gaps in order to create bridges to items that we otherwise couldn't reach. This is very, very prevalent in the design, and I'm actually shocked that the design of this whole thing is very, very, like, I would say it's an improved version of how Golden Sun handled it. Like, this is legitimately Golden Sun levels of kind of environment puzzles that feel better than that one did. There's so many of these. Like, I was going and trying this out, and my daughter comes up and was just fascinated watching me do the raft puzzles that are up there by the castle. Like, that would be too long of a puzzle to do right now, but, like, they're the kinds of puzzles that you can just sit down and just keep on doing for ages, and you'll just find fun interactions all over the place. But, like, right here, you're throwing boulders into water and traversing around and finding new paths and whatnot. Finding that, hey, certain things can actually be burned if we were to go use them. So, like, let's say, again, one of the reasons that I taught my mounts spells is so that they would be able to go set stuff on fire. Now, this isn't very, very impressive in terms of burning stuff, but you'll see fire spreads. Interesting. So that means that there might be cases where, spreading fire might actually be a mechanic that lets you access new areas. It totally is. Everything's a mechanic. It's amazing. So yeah, this isn't one of those, one of those exploration games where you have to find new items to progress. So far, I have found exactly 2 progression items to actually get around. The rest of it was all stuff that was already immediately available. The rest of it was just pure exploration, plain and simple. Actually, one thing to point out, I didn't even realize this. I was going to have it in the actual starter's guide here, but like your home base, your home hub here, is your Watchtower. You actually have only a set amount of days in the game to get everything done. I don't know what happens if you waste all of your days or something. I've actually been going out of my way to use as few days as possible, and in fact, I couldn't even figure out how to light the bonfire for a while. So, just for anyone that's trying this out, just so you're aware, if you're going to your Watchtower, you're going and lighting your bonfire, for one thing, you will get other people that you bring back to your home base, but for another, to actually take a bit of a rest, you want to actually set the thing on fire. Apparently they're okay with us just setting off a nuke here, but you actually have to interact with it, as if it was a switch. So the reason that I mention this is because if you interact with something once, it'll pick it up. So like if I interact with this ring, I go and I set it somewhere, and then I pick it back up and put it away, that's one interaction. But if I were to just interact with a campfire, nothing happens unless I activate it like a switch. It's a simple rule that the game is consistent on. My completely idiot self just didn't realize this for the longest time. So just so you know, that is absolutely a thing. Also, it's very pleasantly calm in here. Also, you may notice that, yes, you actually can see everything that's going on at all times outside of windows. So the world is dynamic in that way. So if you left a gigantic mess outside, you will see your gigantic mess outside. So again, it's just very fun in that way. Actually, how do I get that door open? Interesting. And like, this is how this game goes, because you'll have those moments of like, wait a minute, I didn't realize that there's a door over there. Like, what's the deal with that? So can I interact with the door that way? No. Can I maybe try to blow it open? Maybe not. Probably not. Can I use this to blow it open? Probably not. Can I just nuke it from the skies to see about blowing it open? Probably not. I'm assuming we probably want to blow it open from the other side, but hey, it's worth a shot. You never know when something's going to interact with something. So more than likely, there's just more stuff out this way somewhere that I ended up missing. And you just keep finding more doors and exploring. This is one of those games where it's not necessarily, like, it's not a ginormous open world, but there's a ton going on in this limited area. Like, honestly, I keep wanting to call this like a more of a almost like a TRPG Breath of the Wild kind of a situation, you know? Like, just everything's a mechanic. Everything interacts. It's just so good to see. Additionally, actually, one more note as far as leveling and stuff goes. So, as I mentioned earlier, all of these skills and whatever else, these are something that you can switch between all of your people. So, you have a primary and a secondary. So your primary is the one that you're learning, your secondary is the one that you've already learned, and then you end up getting additional points in several different categories. So like your experience in that class is just directly spent on either passive skills or active skills. Active skills are always available to you as long as you have that class. Passive skills you can slot three of over here, and they once again are from all over the place. Like in this case, weapon attacks do 40% when enemies can't move anywhere. Needless to say, I like that with the amount of traps that I use. Or this guy becomes invisible for one turn whenever he's ending a turn adjacent to visible enemies, and also does 25% whenever there's an ally behind them, which honestly, I probably shouldn't be using this one because that always means that somebody else is getting hit by that spear he's using, but hey, whatever. Anyway, so we go over these different abilities, and they have a whole lot of different things. So, like, let's say right here, if you're using somebody that's doing a crossbow and sword kind of build, when you reload or make a melee attack, reload all equipped weapons. So this means if you wanted to dual-wield crossbows, which require, like, basically crossbows will give you full power of a ranged attack, but they require a reload. You could effectively have one in each hand and then just reload both at once. If you wanted to, let's say, just run a situation where you go and attack with a melee weapon, which reloads your crossbow, you can absolutely do that. Ranged attacks dealing shrapnel damage to nearby enemies, or let's say this one right here, get extra attack range with bows and crossbows, but you move a little bit less. Stuff like that. Like, you can specialize in a lot of different things. And increased range shots, ricochet shots, bombarding shots, and what have you. Backscatter, for example, where you essentially fire once and then two shots split off and shoot backwards. There's a lot of little things like this to each of the classes, and again, the amount of classes is You get a ton right from the get-go, and then they just do a lot of stuff. They interact in a lot of fun ways. Like, for example, I started off Mr. Alos over here. Yes, naturally I had to name my 2 bodyguards, Alos and Floros. So in their particular case, what I did was that he started off as a mage, which started off with these abilities over here. So he had his Flame, his Auric, his Burst, his Blood Spike, and Absorb. So Absorb basically means you take all negative status effects of an area and then just absorb them and convert them into MP, which does have a lot of uses. Like, for example, I typically will have my Knight guy running that so that he can support. Or something like right here, where you have spikes that'll deal 2 damage. And then potentially, if there's a bunch of blood underneath, it will cause additional damage at the same time. So if there's blood there and you hit somebody with a blood spike, it does extra damage. Or you've already seen the burst in action, where it just blows stuff around, or an arc, which will zap between different targets. Essentially, this will attack 2 targets, and then anything that's kind of got a chain of blood around it, it'll go and electrify that as well. But at the same time, you can go pick up something like this, where if you, let's say that there's a bunch of sigils and things like that that some classes can put down, and in other cases they'll just be available on the map. And in this case, they get to keep those bonuses for an extra thing. Or some of them are just extra damage, like right here, where this guy will do extra damage if he's attacking in melee with his spells. Or this one over here, which will end up giving you extra damage to flame attacks for any nearby blood piles, which is kind of messed up, but hey, whatever works. Anyway, at the same time, we have somebody like the Fire Mage, which was what I was primarily working on here, where essentially they have the usual just kind of increasing spells at the cost of MP, but at the same time, during your turn, any flames struck by lightning explode, dealing 3 damage to adjacent units. So, for example, what we were doing earlier was taking a trap that could be sharpened to have a bleed effect, using that bleed effect, essentially using the Geomancer's abilities. Again, they're not actually a Geomancer, they're a Mancer, or not a Mancer, they're a... what are you? The hell are you, lady? I guess they are a Mancer. Anyway, so... wait, what is that from? Melder? Wasn't that from the Melder? Where are your abilities from? Okay, apparently they're actually from the, what is it? From the Melder, there we go. So, in the case of the Melder, they specialize in nature abilities. So, like, Soil Shift over here will essentially do a shift in the ground that pushes everything that way. Think the, was it like the Pushmac? Not the Pushmac. Into the Breach had a unit that was a lot like this. But for example, you put this this particular debuff onto that trap. It explodes in an AoE. You use this to throw the trap to go hit those units. They've now achieved essentially they're bleeding. They've gotten blood on the ground. They've created a situation where they're covered in fire nearby. Then you hit it with lightning. That lightning travels on the blood piles, which then explodes the fire piles. Like. Just, oh, it's so fun to play around with. It's ridiculous. There's a bunch of stuff like this. Anyway, see, the amount of your abilities heal is increased by half of your Geo Adept. What is your Geo Adept? I don't know. Every class just kind of has its own mechanics to it. Truth be told, I've been meaning to go and look through these more. I just haven't used that many melee characters. I really should be using this guy as more of a melee character, actually. I don't know why I haven't, but either way, probably should do that. I'll just swap him to one of those real quick. I was going to have him be a marksman, actually. So we'll see. Anyway, this system is incredibly fun to play around with. And I have to point out, difficulty-wise, it is actually fairly difficult depending on how you play. Like, if you're going for the sort of trickster playstyle here, yeah, there's going to be a lot of potential complications that you run into on trying to win fights directly. But then if you can find any indirect way to take a fight, you have so many advantages at your disposal. Stealth mechanics don't seem like they would work that well in a game like this until you actually manage to pull it off. So I've been having an absolutely wonderful time running a stealth character. So there's that. So the only weird note about it is that it's kind of hard to tell which direction cliffs face sometimes. But you eventually just kind of start seeing it. But yeah, I kind of accidentally burned down this entire town over here. Don't worry, guys. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Let's see what else was there. So, yeah, in terms of getting into places, there's actually a lot of ways that you can break into random hovels that are scattered about to go do this, that, or the other. Surprisingly, there's even interactions dialogue-wise, that there's actually ways to skip entire fights. Like, for example, if we went back to that cave, should I? Well, not... Okay. I don't know how many dialogue bits there are, or specifically how many would be considered spoilers. I don't know the extent of all that, so I don't want to get into all that, but there are ways that you can skip entire boss fights and you still get full experience for them, just by using dialogue. So I have a feeling that a far more pacifist approach is actually possible. But, like, look, this game is out in a few days. Again, it's a one-person studio. It's a one-person studio just passionately going and iterating upon just what seems to be incredible amounts of talent and inspiration from all kinds of different genres. Like, in this particular case, you see what this one's about. They had another one that's all about going around in boats, basically in the same way, in the same engine and what have you. They had another one, that one was Horizon's Gate. It's the only one that's actually kind of cracked past the surface of actually getting some attention, so far anyway. You had Alvora Tactics, which is basically like your Godzilla Jormungandr kind of thing, just sort of fell from the sky one day, so everyone's just going to go fight over the thing, and that's just the setting there, and it's kind of a similar system from what I've seen combat-wise. So, either way, there's so much to love here. There's a surprising amount of polish in just every direction. It's really impressive to me what they've done here. The traversal feels amazing. The interactions with the world feel amazing. The way that the party actually functions feels amazing. Actually, one interesting thing I want to point out that I've noticed when taking a peek at their other games. So the actual races of the characters are different in every one of these games. It seems like they're all just happening in different sections of the world or what have you. So, like, in this case, you basically have this Scurio guy, which I guess is like a fox or something. He's like a one-off here, but most of your characters are these die-cast guys, that they're like half golem kind of situations, but they're made out of rocks. And what's funny is that I say funny, but what's actually impressive is that they actually make this work in the mechanics. Like, there's actual story implications for them being made out of rocks and what have you. Like, you actually have interactions with the locals and whatnot that play into the politics of them being rock people, which I never would have expected. So yeah, would I recommend this one? I cannot recommend it enough. It's really, really, really impressive. It's one hell of a fun time. Quality of life wise, it's absolutely stellar. I mean, I'm shocked how good this stuff goes. One thing I actually haven't touched on here, you might have noticed there's a little bit of a gray over there in the health bars. So, while there is a set amount of days that you're supposed to get everything done in this location, they're like in-game, or sorry, it's not in-game time or real game time, it's just when you decide to go take a nap. And I've had these guys running around without taking naps for the vast majority of the game here. So, just so you know, the one downside, or the one penalty you get for having people knocked out in fights, they don't die permanently, but they do lose a portion of their max health and their max MP. And this keeps on going down until you're eventually forced to take a rest, at which point you basically spend one of your days on that. Let's see if I can shoot this dragonfly. Come on, I'm sure you can be shot somehow. Somehow, someway, I will find a way to... Come on, just run into that tile. I have a feeling... The only reason I think that you can shoot them is because there's a few of them, and they have different animations for when they, like, pop out of the dirt and stuff. And the fact that they seem to dodge your cursor makes me think that there's something you can do there. Oh, man, but, like, you have entire zones that are just gigantic puzzles in and of themselves. It's really, really impressive how far all of that goes. I haven't seen traversal that feels this good in quite a long time. Again, the traversal is like an improved version of the way the Golden Sun did it. You see unique mechanics used all the dang time and reused in interesting ways, brought back in interesting ways. You see combat mechanics being used outside of combat. It's so good. It's really, really impressive what they've done here. Anyway, now that we've gotten ourselves stuck in the middle of a lake, and I guess we're just gonna wait for Del Lago to show up. If this looks like your kind of thing, go ahead and give it a bit of a peek. This is definitely one of my absolute favorites from the indie scene in quite a long while now. And I know it's been enough that I want to go check out the entire rest of the series. So, actually, wait a minute, I just noticed. This guy's using a ring that he should not be using. It's not doing you much good. They usually can equip one ring and then one of something else. So there you go. You go ahead and have one of these, I guess. That'll actually get used. I never actually did explain the equipment slots. Basically, you got 2 hands, an armor slot, 3 accessory slots for different things. These can be applied in a lot of different ways. I actually didn't even mention earlier that those tablets, like that we have shoved in some of the pieces of equipment, while you can technically attach them to your armor, they're also something that you can go ahead and just have inside your accessory pockets to just go improve those skills another way. So it just kind of depends entirely on what you want to do when, more or less. And that aside, I mean, just like the the old inspirations I was talking about, you do also have have note sections on basically everything that you could possibly want, what your different weapon types do, your different types of equipment that you come across. Every new piece of equipment will have a new little bit in here. And you're just going and filling out all these notes. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was actually a section for taking your own notes. There we go. You can actually even take your own notes, which is just funny. Oh man, I love it. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how much love there was clearly put into this. Like, this is a passion project of the best kind. So please, please, please give it a bit of a try. This is the second one of those ones that I was really, really impressed by. That I was just really excited to go give it a try this week. Again, please give these guys some love here. This game's coming out pretty darn soon. It's showing up as one of the more anticipated things on Steam right now for good reason. Because, yeah, this is incredibly made. So yeah, that's kind of about that. I plan to have more guides and stuff coming out for this soon. I'll have a beginner's guide ready pretty soonish. I thought there was an embargo, so I'm just kind of excitedly getting going on this today. And then I'll have a full review upon completion and stuff like that, which honestly will probably just be more glowing praise. This is one of those cases of a very clear, focused, kind of series of designs, because it's all done by effectively one guy. So either way, there's that. And yeah, so that's kind of about that. Y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you'll join me in appreciating the hell out of this thing.